Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about my journey away from teaching into tutoring and how I've managed to move away from it being a side hustle into actually being something that provides quite a good full-time income. So today I'm going to cover the real basics, a little bit of a backstory to myself and my own journey. I'm going to tell you how I changed my business from being just a side hustle and moving it towards providing a full-time income. So let me tell you a little bit about how I left teaching. So I didn't actually leave under a cloud as such. I still actually left being in love with the profession. I absolutely love working with children. I love primary school teaching. I love that part of being part of that classroom teacher and being part of that class and just being that glue for that group of children that you are developing over the course of the year. And I still miss that part of it. So to give you a bit of a backstory, I qualified, I'm 40 years old now. I qualified when I was 30 years old. So I was I felt at the time I was relatively late to the profession. But I had such a great school where I did my training. I actually stayed there and I did my training in year 6, absolutely loved that year group, built some really good relationships with the children, and that's where I wanted to be. But looking back now, what happened before I sort of took the other job at that school was that it just felt comfortable. And when the head teacher came to me, it was in it must have been end of May. The head teacher came to me and said, "Look, Rich, we've got a job, but it's not in year 6, it's in year 2. What do you think?" I was a bit apprehensive, doing something new for the first time, particularly something as important as teaching and being in charge of a class and helping children through. You want to have a little bit of knowledge to draw from, but however, lots of us start that way in teaching, and I just got over myself and I was like, yeah, do you know what? I'd love to stay at the school. I really feel like I'm a good fit. Let's do it. And I had 7 amazing years at the school, and I taught different year groups. I set up a nurture group and just had a really nice relationship with the staff, with the parents at the school, and obviously the children as well. And it just felt like the right time to leave. So from 32 to 37-ish, there was just a big learning curve. I was able to do different things. I was able to grow as a teacher and as a leader because I led different things along the way as well. And it just felt the right time to sort of step up into the next role, which for me would have been assistant head. So I started looking for jobs and I found one. I'm going to cut a really long story short. I found one. It felt okay. There was a few red flags, but nothing really to say that it would have gone down the route that it did. And I got offered the job. And it just felt, just felt right. When I started the job in September, this was an assistant head job. It was being head of Key Stage 1, and it was in a school where it had a year 1 class, a split year 1-2, and then a year 2 class. And I won't go into all of the details because I don't think that's fair, but I can tell you my experience and how I felt at the time. And also what I took from it in terms of my own responsibilities of what I could have done differently. It didn't feel comfortable from the very first day. There was something that didn't quite fit. And looking back, I was actually teaching the split year 1-2 class. I'd never done that before. I did some research to try and help me out, but it was quite a tough learning curve. And it got to about October, and I spoke to the school and said, look, I am struggling a little bit here. I'm actually struggling with the teaching, let alone finding time to do the assistant head job, which I really wasn't doing at that point. However, as our good leaders would do, they listened and contained my feelings at that point. And it did help, and I could say it definitely did help. But however, there was still an element of, I wanted to be an assistant head teacher. I didn't want to be struggling with the teaching. I didn't expect to be struggling with the teaching. However, that was still an amazing class. I would say one of the strongest classes I've ever taught. And I've taught in year 1 and year 2 before, and they were quite a high level class actually. But but it was just hard to juggle everything. And then looking back now, I can see that I was juggling so many things that it's very easy to drop everything else. Like, for example, not just the school life, but life outside of school. And I now know that is what I was actually really struggling with. So when I had a really healthy routine in my other job, you know, I used to get to school for 6:30. I used to make sure I was prepped, ready for the day. I'd have a bit of conversation with a few people that I was close with. It's almost like I'm going to call it like a therapy session, a daily therapy session with people. But really, it's just talking to your friends about the day and just general life in general. But I'd also finish work at about 4:30 or 5 o'clock every single day, and I wouldn't have a lot to do at home. So I used to go to the gym, or I'd meet someone for a drink on the way home, like a coffee or something, and then I'd be home with my own family, obviously be around for my own children. But when I changed jobs, that all went, and it wouldn't have mattered how many hours I put into that job, I wouldn't have had my to-do list sorted, and I constantly felt like I was chasing my own tail, but I was about a mile away from it. And that was how I felt the whole time. I was there from September to January, and I left. And that in itself is its own story. I'll talk about that another time. But I came back after, I had the Christmas break, and I wasn't myself. At the time, I felt like I was enjoying Christmas, but it got to the last day of the Christmas holidays, and I'd spent the day with some friends, really close friends of mine, and I just suddenly blurted out, like, I didn't want to go back. And everybody, because they know how much I love it, love the teaching, and I love being in school, and I love working with children, they were a bit shocked, and it kind of unraveled from there. And I didn't quite have what I would see as a breakdown as such, but there certainly was an outpouring of, oh my God, I actually don't want to do this anymore. And then there's loads of stuff attached to that as well. So for example, like we wrap our identity into things, don't we? And I identify as a teacher. And suddenly I felt like I wasn't that anymore. So what the hell was I? You know, if I didn't want to go and be a teacher, what am I anymore? There was loads of other questions, which wasn't the right time to be thinking these things because you're not in the right space. But that's how I felt at the time. And I was really honest. I went back to school and just said, look, I think my time's up. And again, I'll cut a really long story short. I was there for another 2 weeks before leaving. I spoke to the union, didn't get the union involved in all the meetings. I just had one conversation with them and just said, look, you know, what's the best way forward? Myself and the school and the executive head at the time just came up with an agreement, and it gave me a bit of a buffer so I could go away and actually kind of fix myself. But actually what I did was just sink into what I can look back at now and say I sunk into a bit of, I would say, still low-level depression. Like I just found it difficult to get out of bed, found it hard to just do anything really. Just felt guilty every day, and I know we all resonate with that, because I think as teachers we do feel guilty a lot. And then there was a defining moment. You know, there was a moment where you kind of, I don't know what changed, I don't know what it is, what happened. Nothing really happened significantly, but I woke up one day and just felt like I was ready to take control, and that's the only way I can describe it. There was an element of, and I imagine, this is how I imagine it in my head, although it didn't happen like this, but I imagine it like I bolted up in bed. I was like, what are you doing? Come on, sort yourself out. It didn't happen like that. It's probably lots of other sequences, like for example, just having time and space to think and just be me rather than be Mr. C, the teacher, or even there was times when I wasn't really being a good dad at those points either. You know, I was just taking myself away from everything. But I had this moment and I was like, look, you know, how can I carry on like this when I know that I've got this skill of working with children, working with families? There must be something out there for me. And I was looking for work, and I was like, do you know what? I actually want to take control a little bit here. What do I want to keep sort of keep giving my destiny over to other people? And then what did that actually mean? So I spoke to my other half and said, you know, what do you think about me trying to set up as a tutor? I'm still going to find work, because at that point I hadn't got any students at all. I hadn't even thought about it at this point. This is probably about mid-February time. and this is going back about 5 years ago. It was about mid-February time, so I've been out of work and sort of sat in bed for about a month, and I opened up a Facebook page. That was the first thing I did. I did a bit of research. I mean, I'm quite at that point, I wouldn't say I am now, but I was quite tech-minded then, and so I was on Facebook, social media, but only in a personal sense, not in a business sense. And I'd followed a few pages, so I thought, well, I'll make a Facebook page, and I just put it out there, shared it with family and friends. And by the end of that week, I had 4 students ready to go on a Sunday, and I charged £25 an hour. It was all cash, and I went out on the Sunday. I did this teaching. I came back. I mean, I was out all day because my students were spread like quite a way out geographically, and I had to keep driving between places. So it took quite a long time. So I was out, I think, for the 4 hours worth of tutoring. I was out for 6 hours during the day, sometimes a little bit longer if I got caught somewhere, you know, chatting to a parent. But it didn't feel like I was working, and it was just like this weird kind of experience, and I can't explain it, and I'm sure some of you would have had the same experience, or a similar experience at least, where although I was working for what I would consider a normal day, I came back fresh as a daisy, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, actually, working with these children and these families in this way is really beneficial to them. I absolutely love it. I think this is going to go quite well. Now, I actually got back into teaching. I still carried on with my tutoring because I felt like it gave me a different drive and a different focus. There was, of course, like an even better reason to keep going. But I did find a really good teaching post, and it was teaching interventions across 2 schools in a deprived area in Kent, and I absolutely loved it. I did, and I actually did fall in love with it, and the place where I was at as well, they actually really liked me, and they offered me like such a good job, and I turned it down. And it was working in a PRU, but it was a PRU based in a primary school for this academy, and it was just their children. So although it was a PRU in a sense, because it was only the children from that academy, it was even more well contained and well supported. So it wasn't like a PRU where, you know, your local authority will send you children. You could do much more sort of early intervention type work, which was exactly my thing. Right? I love the early intervention side of working with children. You're getting there nice and early, solve the problem, or at least see where the problem's coming from. And if you get there early, you can generally means you can solve it in a quicker way. So rather than problems sort of getting ingrained, we can try to solve them at an earlier stage. But I turned it down because there was another opportunity, which was, I found basically a self-employed post somewhere. It sounds a bit weird because it's a self-employed post, but it's working for a company doing digital marketing, which I didn't have a lot of experience for, but because it was a company selling things to primary schools, like, it made sense. I've got a lot of that knowledge. I've got a business degree. Business is like a really like big interest of mine. So, and guys, you would probably know that now. And so it made sense, and it wasn't a full week either. I think it was a 30-hour contract or freelance contract, and it just made me look at my weekly timetable and go, actually, I could change what I do now with I think I was up to sort of 6 students on a Sunday at this point, and create more time for tutoring. And that's where it began. So I don't know what stage you are at in your teaching career or your tutoring career, but often what happens is we have these real low moments in our life. And if you're in one of those moments right now, just take notice of other people's stories. I mean, I feed off other people's stories all the time for motivation. And realise that when you are at rock bottom or close to rock bottom, that is what gives you the platform to push off. And like I said, like, I imagined myself, it didn't happen like this, but I imagined myself going bolt right up in bed and going, what are you doing, Rich? Come on, you're not a bad teacher. Actually, you're a pretty good teacher. You've got all of these skills to draw on. That you're good at communicating with parents. You're good at working with families. What is it that you could be doing right now to help you take back control? And that's what tutoring gave me. Tutoring has helped me create a life that works for me in a way where I am in charge of my own destiny. And that's what I want to help others to achieve. That's the whole point of the Facebook group. That's the whole point of the courses that I create and the workshops that are on offer, so that everybody or a teacher or a tutor that's just starting out, or even a tutor that is got loads of experience, they have somewhere to go for training, they have somewhere to go to for motivation, for connection, to build relationships with other tutors, which perhaps feels a bit strange because like past mindsets might say, no, I want to be on my own. That was the whole point. I don't want other people interfering in my business or in my life. But actually, if we connect with others, if we are able to talk with other tutors, with other people, in the same way we would in a staff room, we're more likely to be able to look after ourselves in a better way. And that's what I would like to achieve. That's my mission and my aim for the coaching business and the training business. So that's my story away from teaching. That's my story about starting my tutoring business. I've got loads more to share. I could go into more detail, but I don't think now's the right time. I just wanted for people to connect with me in a different way, because these are not stories that I've shared before. Like, I just go onto the group, offer free training that I write and I think is useful to you guys. But I don't often sort of put myself out there of where did I start? And this is just a very short introduction, really. So thank you for listening. You know where to find me. You can find me in the Facebook group. You can leave a comment on YouTube. And also my email address and my contact details are readily available sort of everywhere. I'll make sure they are posted. If you've got any questions or you'd like to share your story away from teaching, or perhaps you are still a teacher but you'd like to move into tutoring but you're not sure where to start, come and find me. Let's connect. Let's talk soon. Anyway, thanks for listening. Speak to you soon. See you later. Bye-bye.